Hello and welcome to Financial Intelligence. In this video, I want to talk about the government's coronavirus relief bailout programs. These programs are advertised as a way to rescue small business owners during the recent pandemic. However, in reality, these programs are implemented in such a way that most of the taxpayers' money is used to enrich the wealthy. In other words, helping the middle class is just used as an excuse to confuse people and silence any kind of objections to these kinds of wealth transfer programs. For example, Lakewood Church in Houston, Texas, which is the largest church in the US with 52,000 weekly congregants, received $4.4 million in coronavirus relief funds through the Small Business Administration's Forgivable Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP for short. If you like the type of content that I provide on this channel, subscribe to the channel and give this video a thumbs up, and also hit the notification bell so that you won't miss any of my future videos. Joel Osteen, the televangelist who runs the massive Lakewood Church, is worth an estimated $100 million. Joel Osteen's Megachurch, which has never paid taxes, was happy to take taxpayers' money, arguing that loans did not personally benefit Pastor Osteen. Note that although this is just an example, it is not an outlier or an edge case by any means. This use case is worth exploring because it personifies the individuals who enriched themselves at the expense of the middle class. In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 reasons why bailing out Joel Osteen's megachurch in Texas makes no sense. Reason number 1, taxpayers enrich Joel Osteen. The largest and most financially thriving megachurch in the US was surprisingly qualified to receive a loan from the Small Business Administration's program via the federal government. While on the surface it looks like these funds have been used to pay the employees of this megachurch, in reality, the real beneficiaries are Joel and Victoria Osteen, the owners. A spokesperson for the megachurch commented that as the shutdown persisted month after month, given the economic uncertainty, Lakewood finally applied for the PPP loan and has been able to provide full salaries and benefits, including health insurance coverage, to all of its employees and their families. The funds were used to help support church staff, but neither pastors Joel or Victoria Osteen were paid through the loan. Despite the fact the Osteens were not paid through the loan, they own the whole megachurch. By saving the megachurch, which supposedly would have gone under in the absence of the loan, the federal government has bailed out Joel Osteen more than his staff. Besides, Joel Osteen owns the business and has enough funds to cover the cost of running his business. For example, the megachurch made $90 million in revenue in 2018 according to sources. However, Joel Osteen is going to rely on the taxpayers to pay the wages of his employees while his business continues to collect tax-free donations online. This means that this year his business is going to operate on taxpayers' money at zero cost to him. In the meantime, all their revenue is going to turn into profits. Reason number 2, mega churches never pay taxes. For purposes of US tax law, mega churches such as Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church are considered to be public charities. As such, they're generally exempt from federal, state, and local income and property taxes. Exempt means they don't have to pay these taxes. Actually, these religious organizations are treated like charities because they generally provide social benefits to society. The original logic behind this exemption was that churches tend to help the poor, work to reduce crime, and generally hold a positive influence over their communities. However, remember that Joel Osteen's church refused to open its doors to offer shelter during natural disasters such as Hurricane Harvey that left most of Osteen struggling. Another justification for making churches tax exempt is the fact that it can be considered as an enforcement of the separation of church and state, with the government not interfering in religious affairs. However, if the separation of church and state is such an important concept, it should go both ways. They pay no taxes, and therefore the federal government should not use taxpayers' dollars to support these mega churches either. Reason number 3, the First Amendment. My last but not least objection is that regardless of your religious affiliation, you are forced to support a religious entity that you may or may not believe in. Most people are not affiliated with Joel Osteen's church and want to have nothing to do with his business/church. However, the government is using their tax money to support his organization. In the United States, the religious and civil liberties are guaranteed by the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. The Establishment Clause states that Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, which is meant to prohibit the federal government from establishing a national church or excessively involving itself in religion, particularly to the benefit of one religion over another. In my opinion, bailing out these mega churches is a violation of the First Amendment. I hope that you like this video. If you have any recommendation or suggestion, please add them in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and hit the notification bells so that you won't miss any of my future videos. Thank you and take care.